Hi, this is Charlotte Pierce. I'm the president of the Independent Publishers of New England, and you're watching our weekly or semi-weekly Ask the Experts show. Today we have content marketing specialist strategist Michael Bosey. Is that how you pronounce it, Michael?
It is. Thank you.
Bosey. And he's fresh off talking at our conference, our annual conference in Portsmouth, New Hampshire. So we'll continue that discussion a little bit, but just wanted to talk a little bit about what is coming up at IFNI. Now that we have all of our major book shows of the fall, for some reason they're all like in October, and we turn into pretzels and go nuts. But we're through that and our conference, and now we have our annual meeting and board elections coming up. So if you're interested, just talk to us at ipne.org, ipne.org, and there are a lot of great things coming up next year as well. So the major book shows starting in the summer, and then the ones in the fall. So we have a spring and a fall catalog as well, and ipne.org is where you can find all that stuff. I also want to mention one of our sponsors from the conference is a major, huge printing company with a small business approach, I guess you'd call it. They're awesome. Chris Shore is the rep, and they are one of our sponsors for the conference and us. Awesome. So thank you, Chris and company. Your guys are support IFNI and help us do a lot of things. Okay, so Michael Bosey, do you want to introduce yourself, or what did we talk about? We have a definition that we need to go through, but why don't you tell us who you are, what you do, and why your activities are so interesting.
Well, interesting to me anyway. So no, thank you, Charlotte. I'm glad to be here, and thanks everyone for joining us today, or if you're joining after the live broadcast, listening to the recorded version. I hope that you'll find this to be valuable. Just for a little bit of background on me, I'm a 17-year publishing vet. I was in the industry publishing nonfiction books. Most of that was textbooks, so the most non-fiction-y of nonfiction that you can get. And basically, in a nutshell, I kind of got frustrated with how the system treats authors, especially when there are new ways to connect with and reach an audience directly. And I just saw that time and time again, the author could do everything right, the publisher could do everything right, the editor, the marketer, and the book could still fail. And I just thought, as someone who was really dedicated to propagating ideas, that's just a tragedy. So not to be overly dramatic, but all of us are in the same boat trying to get our ideas out there. And here's the cool thing is that now is possible, where you don't need to have a gatekeeper standing in between you and reaching an audience directly. And so after doing about 5 years of early stage startups, I started my own business about 3 years ago, almost 3 years exactly, January 2014. And my intent was to sort of fix that. And, my supposition was that I had helped authors my entire career. So I thought that I would start with that, with serving authors. And to my surprise, it was most of my clients that I took on were really small business owners who were using a book, but also a blog or a podcast or videos as an instrument to build an audience. And this is kind of how I got connected with IPNE, because one of the things that I very much like about the organization is just that they think of the author in the same way that I do. The author, whether you're published by a traditional publisher or whether you're self-published, the author is his or her own small business. And
yes,
and I love that.
Kind of our main theme right now.
And I absolutely love that right there, because I've been trying to preach this for a while. And even people who were my mentors when I was starting this business, they're like, Michael, you've got to pick one or the other, small businesses or authors. And I've maintained a stubbornness about this, because to me, they've always been the same. You're the one who's out there calling the shots. you run the business. You make all the decisions. It may not seem like that sometimes when you've got a publisher and you feel like you work for them, but to me, the exact opposite is true. And I like that IPNE is really good about.
Yeah, we launched our conference, or we opened our conference with a workshop called Your Book as a Business.
I think I have a blog
Really one of
that too.
Yeah, one of our major pushes this year is to kind of, empower authors with, I think it's kind of scary sometimes just to think, well, I just want to write a book and, I want to be a business. But
it is.
You just get the tools and you just start using them, and pretty soon you're taking care of business.
Well, I did, to that point, Charlotte, when I first started, I made this supposition because I thought I was going to be working with nonfiction authors. And I did a survey of about 150 nonfiction authors just to find out what the issues were. And over again, they said exactly the same thing, which was just, I hate this icky marketing. And I like to write, and I do that. And when it comes to marketing, I don't want to do that. And actually, that was sort of the genesis of the podcast that I produce, which is called Marketing Without the Marketing. And it's teaching, because keep in mind, I said it's the same small businesses, authors are the same. Even small business owners who are not writers like you, they still struggle with the same thing. It's usually a small business. It's the the founder, or it's, and all the clients I work with are, one person to two or three. They don't want to do that either. And so the kind of cool thing, and what we'll talk about today, is using content marketing with the sort of spin or angle that I put on it, which is super soft touch. And it's very much not about you just crowing about your latest book. It's about providing value to an audience and drawing them back in with your content.
And why don't we start out, because I know that, the meaning of content marketing has sort of dawned on me in the last probably 5 years or 4 years, but I think a lot of people aren't really sure what that is. Can you kind of give us a little synopsis of the?
Yeah, here's the way that I define it. I think it's it's also called inbound marketing, and people talk about this in different ways. And I think there's still a lot of misconceptions about it. So, the way that I define it is, first of all, it's marketing. Right? When you boil it down, that's what it is. But really, it's using content. And I know writers kind of bristle at that term because you're like, no, it's my writing. But we don't have a better term for that. So just think of it as content. And I'll help define that a little bit later as well. Using content.
It's not an excerpt of your book. It's just stuff that comes out of your head or out of your life, right?
That's right. But think of what you're doing is using this content, defined in a second, as an instrument to start a relationship and then build trust over time until you're in a position to ask for a sale. That to me is what content marketing is. And what I contend all the time is that content marketing by itself is not enough. Really what I think is that in order to make this efficient and not drive you crazy, with all that you need to do in writing your book, having probably many of us have another job as well, and be promoting it too, you have to come up with systems to manage it. And that to me is content strategy, which is now, think of widening the lens to include all of your different content. So that could come in a variety of different forms. But the biggest ones that I want to focus on today are the 4 pillars, which are, assuming that you have a website, your book or your work in progress, a blog or something similar, email, really important, and social media. All that stuff has or is or contains content. So in other words,
one thing I wanted to get to, you might want to address it later, but like, when do you know you're at the point when you can ask for a sale?
Let's go down the road to get there, and because there are some statistics about that as well. But let's put it this way: it takes a lot longer than you think.
Right.
So it is, and keep in mind that's one of the biggest resistance I get. And by the way, most authors and writers, that's what we do. We write, and we have no intention of giving up on the writing. So the nice thing about authors, and why I like working with authors, is that we have a long view. Now think about it. These small business owners who are not writers, often they come to me and they're super impatient. Can we get this to happen? Can we do this campaign? And I will tell them, listen, that content marketing takes a long time. And that's one thing that, that really you have to have some patience with it. It's a process. You need to make it a habit, and it's not going to be instantaneous. It's not a miracle cure. But when you have an organically acquired audience that day by day, week by week, month by month, building trust over and over again, then those people are in a position to support you and then want to purchase from you. Because trust, we don't buy anything now without trust. There's got to be some
reviews. I don't go on Amazon and just buy something that has 2-star review. I just,
right.
And then for books, I go down and I read them, and it's just anecdotal, but if it's all like fabulous, then I think, well, this is bogus.
That's right. And the only thing that accelerates that process, and think about it, is if, Charlotte, you had a friend or your sister or whatever who said, hey, Charlotte, you got to check this book out. And if you respect her opinion, you'll go buy it without even looking at a review.
Absolutely.
Because trust has been transferred.
Yeah.
Right. And that's a big part of content marketing too, is if you can get people to not only get to the purchase, but get them to be advocates for you. That's where the power of the internet can explode this, because now we have the means to reach people and find their opinions, and not just Amazon reviews, but anywhere.
So I'm I've got a couple books out, and I'm I'm just hypothetically, I'm now learning about what content marketing is, and I do a few library shows. I go around to bookstores. I'm on Twitter. I say, I tell people when I've launched a book. But I'm starting to get the idea that, there's more to it. So where do I go from here?
Yeah, Charlotte, I'm glad you brought that up, because that right there, the nuances matter in this. Some people just think, oh, I'm blogging, oh, I'm on social media, I'm doing content marketing. In my view, that couldn't be further from the truth. And here's the secret to it. Really what it comes down to, and I say this over and over again in my podcast, the blog, working with clients, and sometimes I need a reminder myself too, so it's easy to fall into. Content marketing is completely flipping the script, and it's all about providing value of some sort to your audience. First, it's up to us now to make the first move, provide some value to the audience. And think about this. If you've done that, even if it's a little micro, little piece of value, whatever form that is, that could be entertaining them, laughing, it could be informative, it could be inspiring, it could be enlightening. All those things would count as a piece of value. And then you got to do it again and again and again and again until you can work up to.
And with you, you've got these, for example, the free content strategy planning tools, workshops, and you're just giving that to people, right?
Yeah. You have to give a lot of value away first. And the same thing with my podcast. I do a weekly podcast that's on all these principles and techniques, and I'm just a practitioner. I work with this stuff. I'm up on it all the time. And I just share the knowledge that I have with people until, and think about this, little by little, they come to trust me as, hey, this guy knows what he's talking about. So, at some point, I'm producing an online course, for instance, and at some point people will purchase that, or ebooks, or will reach out to me and say, hey, can I hire you? So, but it takes, as I said, it takes a long time. But
yeah.
But just to.
So what are the markers
I'm sorry, could you repeat that? I lost you, Charlotte.
What are the markers when do you know that it's working? What are what's some evidence, if I start doing this and I'm not really, it's not an innate process for me, but I believe you and I start doing, how do I know that it's working or that?
Okay, well, here's the first thing. When you go into this mindset with providing value to someone, so suppose, on my podcast, I teach how to do, a Twitter ad, for instance. So somebody might have a look at that. Now, keep in mind, what I'm doing with that is is just doing this generously, not just a blog that's here's my stuff, here I am promoting myself. It's really, and this is the key, is I'm trying to serve, right? Let me serve you. And really, that's a key component to content marketing. So check this out. For authors and other writers, the thing that's great about this is you're not being self-promotional at all. You're just, listen, let me try to help you. And if I do that, and I do help you, even if it's that, for that, again, that one little, micro piece of help, then what might you do?
So it's all about paying it forward and creating
and indicators
a value of
that you'd be watching. And of course, you need to set this up if you're doing your entire content strategy. Indicators would be a social share, a comment. Now, keep in mind, you can't live off of a comment or a like on Facebook or whatever, but those are indicators, right? It's data that says, oh, someone responded to this. Or what I'll get sometimes on Twitter, which is my best channel. Oh, thank you. That made me think differently about this. Okay, awesome. Or I'll get occasionally, I get more positive, a lot more positive than negative, but those things will happen. And I invite that as well, where it's like, listen, this is only my experience in being a practitioner. So I get people sometimes who are like, oh, that thing you said about LinkedIn, like, I have really good luck with that. I'm like, oh, awesome, great. I mean, please disagree, give us stories that are, it's going to be different for everyone. You have to find your own way on this. And, but then also it's actual data too. And you can use things like, Google Analytics or other things in other platforms to watch site entries, how long they stay. Are they reading your site? What page do they bounce from? Like all these things are data. None of them alone paint the whole picture, but taken together, you can start to get an idea of what people are responding to. And those are indicators that it's working.
Yeah, I had another question that just went out of my head, but time. Sounds like I'm going to have to spend an awful lot more time on social media.
Yeah. But here's the thing, if you are, and if you'd like, I can go through what the at least an outline of what my process is to make this so it doesn't drive you absolutely nuts. Because it's all about, to me, it's about reusing content. And, as much as I can, I don't want to be absolute about this, but I try to produce things with the idea that it's going to be used in more than one place. So let me give you an example of that. So for instance, in working with clients or in my own work, one is you can use a blog as a way to build the crappy first draft of a book. If you work to a plan, so in other words, you come up with your plan, your outline, whatever, and then you fill that in with blogs. And I did this recently with a book that I helped a client with that just published in September. And, we probably through blogging got her to about, I don't know, I want to say about 40% of a first draft manuscript. Yeah. And then once it was there, then we said, all right, now let's get serious about it and whatever. But the kind of cool thing is while that's happening, you're in contact with people who are potential readers.
Are you afraid that someone's going to steal this stuff?
Well, here's another counterintuitive thing, which I quite enjoy. But to me, if you feel like you're giving too much away, you're on the right track.
I hear you. Yeah, I'm a big open source person. So
you are.
That was the plan. That was a leading question.
Yeah, and I really feel that because if you're going to provide value, people, believe me, I get challenged on this all the time. It's like, Michael, how can you sell your services? How can you sell this course product or a book if you give away all your expertise? Well, think about it. This is my strategy only, but it's what I do is I'm giving away what's in effect free general help to people. Now, the people who come to me and are like, okay, I get it, but can you and I sit down?
Here's my specific issue. Yeah.
Exactly. And
so I remembered what I was going to say. So when you're finished with your thought, I'll ask you.
Oh yeah, no, please.
Oh, there's all these platforms like Facebook is just so seductive, but it takes people away. Like I find people just using Facebook and not directing people to their own website.
Right.
And I'm thinking that I'm trying especially with IPME, is that everything that I post should have an IPME URL.
Mm-hmm.
And so that they come to our site, then they see our events, they see our conference, they see,
Yeah.
our Ask the Expert show. And
there's two factors with that. Okay. So, and that would help you with content marketing. One, I'm a big proponent of having a link back and everything, but as long as it meets one criteria, which is that it's providing value to people. If it's just promotional, remember the default stance to anything, buy my book, buy my new record, check out my site. The default stance from an audience in social is who cares. So you got to make them care. And the cool thing about IP&E is that you know what the author's issues are. So the best thing to do would be, in your case, right, is producing content that's of value. We're doing that today with this webinar.
Right. And right? I put it out on Twitter. I said, learn the holistic method of marketing. And then I put the link back to our website.
Excellent. But keep in mind, here's the thing, it's not only about Facebook. In point of fact, Facebook is in what I kind of call phase 2 of their evolution. I really don't think of it as a social network. This is going to sound weird, but to me, it's an advertising platform. And I'll tell you why I say that. One, they were able to quickly grow to now 2 billion users and over 1 billion on mobile. So now it is a central place. And now they're in the phase where they're heavily monetizing that, right? So for instance, when you post on the IP&E page, this is different than my or your profile. Organic reach for a page is 9% now. So that means if you have 1,000, think of like if you have 1,000 people who have liked your page, who said, I want to opt in and follow.
Which we do. Yeah, we have.
So when you post, less than 90 people see that post. So, and the reason they do this is because they want to upsell ads to you. They want you to pay to reach the audience that you have.
They make that very clear, yes.
And they make that very clear. So this is why I'm pretty strongly against what I call, and it's not my term, but digital sharecropping. You should try to own your own platform, and keep in mind, I'm not saying don't be on Facebook or Twitter or Goodreads or Amazon, which is also a social platform. You should, but just think of it as the goal is always to bring them back into your house. So that's your site, your blog, and ultimately your book, right? Where that's the case. So social is really just for the awareness stage, for new people, and for the people who are in your community for you to communicate. But a Facebook page right now is really, it's fairly discouraging for most authors and brands, because think, you've spent all this time building an audience on this platform, and now they say you have to pay us to reach that audience.
Right.
And that's,
and then you end up sort of duplicating your efforts on all these different platforms.
That's right.
And that's really labor intensive. But I found a little tracking thing on Facebook, and there's something like it gives you some stats on what links get clicked. And
yeah. And, for authors, I mean, I kind of cut this into a couple different platforms. To me, here's the thing, first of all, is that in my view, in order to make yourself efficient, there's a few things that go into content strategy. So I would sort of put this in the following buckets. You're creating content, so that's blog and your book, right? And then the other stuff that might drop out of that. So for instance, one thing to do, I call that blog to book, going upstream.
Yeah.
Or blog, cutting those into social posts and your email newsletters, that's going downstream. And so you're deriving social content, little quotes from the blog post or whatever with a link back. So it's not like you have to be rewriting these, you just have to, cut them up. And keep in mind, there's still a time cost to this. There's absolutely no doubt. But there's creating content, repurposing content, coming up with some parallel processes around your content, some very careful automation as well. And
I love Hootsuite. It's really changed my life.
Yeah.
I love it because I have about 10 Twitter accounts, and I can put something up and I can post it on all of them at different times, or 5 of them maybe. And then, and schedule it at different times so it looks like it's all going on at once.
Yep.
Yeah.
No, that's a great example of automation. And of course, you got to be super careful with that, because when you let a robot do your job of making connections, you just got to be super careful.
Yeah.
A light
I
touch
don't,
with
yeah,
that.
I don't do it like, I don't put up the spreadsheet and, like, it's more like I know what's going out and I know
That's right.
what's going out. And it's in my
And that's
head. So.
and I do that too. I have tweets that are scheduled from now through January in Hootsuite.
Oh, wow. I don't have it that
So,
much.
yeah.
But you had another question about, yeah, yeah.
Well, let me follow through on the social thing then, Charlotte, because generally I advise what you want to try to do is find where your audience is on social. And you don't really want to be on every single platform. I mean, you want to have an account set up. You want to do a land grab when you first get there. So if you're doing this, and I would highly recommend that this is around you as your author brand, as your book. You think about it, a book is a project, and you're going to move, even if you're in a series, you're going to move to project to project to project. And you want something that's more career based. So something that is going to span your whole career, and that's centered around you. And so you set out your outposts. Like,
so many different lives, they kind of overlap,
Yeah, and when you're first doing this, get an account everywhere. So for me, I'm Mboezi, Mboezi on almost every platform, so that people know where to find me. And I don't use all of them, but what you try to do is get out there, make some assumptions about where your audience is. But the kind of cool thing is that, it's not up to you, it's up to them. So for instance, at the conference, I was presenting on the panel with LJ, and her primary channel was Google+. Most people think of that as dead, and she said, no, that's my most. I was like, that just shows you, like, most.
No, it's so true, yeah.
So it can happen to anyone, but here's what I'd recommend is that you go into this, you start wide, and you seek to eliminate channels. And for most authors, my advice is to usually shore up what I call the big five for authors. So that would be Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn, Google+, and this is going to sound crazy, but YouTube as well. And I'll give you the reasons why. Twitter is the best for just connecting with people that you don't know.
Well, YouTube is the second largest search engine, and Google is the first, and they own each other.
That's right. And even if you're not posting or producing content, you want to have you want to be there. Yeah. LinkedIn, just because it's a big network and you are a professional writer in some way, and so that's a good outpost. Facebook, because you need to be there because there's 2 billion people. And Google+, aside from LJ's experience, it's also very, very good for building search hooks for you for SEO. So I just say set up an account and post once to there. That's how I use it. I don't use it as a social platform. I use it purely for SEO purposes. And I have a podcast episode on all that if you want to get into the nuances of those. And then the only other thing is, I would say for writers, the other places I would be on is, and especially if you've got a book or a WIP, is to be on Amazon, because that is a social platform too, and Goodreads, which is owned by Amazon. You should be there with an author page and a book page if you have your book already set up. And there are some other things too, but the thing to do is to try to find the one social channel that just kicks butt for you. So for me, that's Twitter. And when I look at the data, it's over 70% of my site inlets are through Twitter. That one works for me.
Have you traced like clients directly to Twitter, or do you know that precisely?
Yeah, by all means.
Yeah.
And an audience that I'm using that will be, that I'm building in advance of launching this course.
We have about 5 minutes left, but I wanted to ask you about, you've got your own content, and, I'm going to provide some value, but what about reacting to other people's content and, putting out your tentacles that way?
Yeah, thank you for bringing that up, Charlotte. I forgot to mention that. Here's the thing. Remember, if you go back to your central premise is that you serve and you provide value to your audience, of course that can be someone else's content. And in point of fact, it's really good for you because it shows that you're being generous. You always credit. We as writers know that credit is very important. So you credit the
Acknowledgement
source.
feels so good, you know, when you acknowledge someone else's, you know that you're making them feel good.
And you've taken that and you've said, here, to my audience, you like me and respect me or whatever. I've curated this for you. I mean, that's immense value right there. So yeah, by all means, you should make that a part of your plan.
It's great lesson to learn.
So Charlotte, if we need to start wrapping up, then would you mind showing my website? Because I have a lot of, as you would imagine, because I live what I teach, is that I have a lot of tools that are free help for authors. And this is my site. My company is called Control Mouse Media. And if you click on the upper bar, which says click here to download, see, so that's the home page. Click here to download. I have a content library with my content strategy tool set, the tools I actually use, but then I have checklists for, you know, how to write and optimize a blog post, how to do the same.
Podcasts are right here.
Oh yeah, and my podcast called Marketing Without the Marketing is right there too. And I've just done a whole series on each social platform. And remember, you'll hear me talking about this as sort of for small businesses, but remember, I do think of you as small businesses too, as authors. So it's for you as well.
Okay. Do you mind if we clip this and give you credit and put it in our blog?
Oh yeah, you mean
the
yeah, by all means, with the link, or I can give it. Yeah, sure. I mean, I have yeah,
cool.
Because all of these
we have a new blog. It's sporadic because we're, you know, it's like herding cats to kind of get people to do stuff consistently. It's understandably, but
and I hope that you know, these are the things that I use every day when I'm doing this with clients, and I just figured, you know what, let me share this. If you can find some value in it.
I mean, it's just sometimes people just need to print this out and put it on their wall, you know, and then that's what I would need. I would paste it on my wall and think, oh yeah, I've got to do that today. Oh yeah. So, like the blog template, for instance, or the checklists, the number 2 or 3. I mean, I don't need them because I know them very well, but I do recommend that here. Just print this or tack it to the wall above your computer, and because it's all the things that you need to write. It makes you a lot more efficient to do it all at once and then plug it into WordPress, and then you're off to the races, you know. So, and I mean, I'm sure that the time to fruition for each individual author or publisher is different, but I mean, if you went about this for 6 months, would you see some significant results? Or
I think you can, depending. I mean, when I first started, not to be discouraging, but I mean, before I started to see something really take off, it was after 200 blog posts. And I say that to people not to sort of put you off on this. I mean, we're writers, so we write, but I mean, just to set your expectations. When I work with clients, generally we do have a 6-month time when we're working together, but I'm like, listen, you're going to see some results. It's going to be fun, but you're also going to go through periods when it's like, wow, there's no one listening. But
like what I hear all the time from people, from members, it is like, well, I tried, you know, I registered for this event, you know, exhibit, or you know, I did something that you recommended, and I didn't get any results.
I know. And I've heard that too, where, for instance, working with a client, we launched their very first blog post on their corporate blog, and, you know, a very small business. And the guy called me, I think on the next Monday. He's like, yeah, Michael, I don't think this is working. I'm like, you're killing me. Like, the thing's been up for 4 days. Like, did you expect this flood of, no, that's not.
Yeah, it's like with these booksellers, you know, we go to the NIBA, the New England Independent Booksellers, and we take them. So these are bookstores that come by and they look at the books. They take our catalog.
Yeah. And this is why I say, you know, look, we're writers, but we're going to write anyway. And have fun with it like you would with your writing. And I know it's not always fun, but I mean, do your thing. But the big thing really, and you know, you can learn a lot about this on my site and everything, is just make it efficient. Make the content do double duty, like that blog to book, great, or that blog to social. just so it doesn't drive you crazy, so you can stick more to the fun stuff. And the marketing is necessary. It absolutely is. People are not just going to find you because you put your stuff out there, but just, all it is a conversation with other people about who care about
you
the same
enjoy
things.
anyway.
Yes, yes. So
Yeah, that's kind of how I approach. Like I just find stuff I like to publish and
totally.
Get out there and sort of muck around and talk about it with people online.
And everything that you can with a very soft touch, delivering value. I mean, the reason I do what I do, and I have a lot of personal reasons for doing this, but for the most part, it's just that I'm sick of aggressive, pushy, bad marketing. And I really do believe that we can do business with one another and be nice to one another. And this style of marketing works, though it takes a little bit longer time than I know you or I would like it to, but it also feels a lot better.
Yes,
and it's
does.
effective.
Yeah.
I mean, I've seen the results. So
no, there's so much more to say about this topic, and I hope a regular guest on our Ask the Experts will have a little bit better technology next time, hopefully.
No, this is great.
Yeah, it's great. We usually have Einstein on, so we have a little more ability to switch screens and things like that. But ipne.org, and we generally have an Ask the Experts show every week. Next week we're having, you might want to check this out, Michael, Laura Fredericks of the Scribbly.
Oh, cool. Yeah.
The startup, she got they won a startup award or something from Massachusetts.
Yeah. No, that's awesome.
Like cool startups or something. Really young, nice woman, and totally into this marketing. But they have they find your readers.
Oh, cool. Yeah, I wasn't sure what. Wow, that's great.
But we'll let you know. So next week, Thursday at noon, I think we're going to be on at noon, but just check ipne.org/experts. And thank you so much, Michael. I don't want to let you go, but I think we have to. So.
Charlotte, thank you. It's my pleasure, and I hope that this was helpful to folks. And go to my website for a lot more if you want to dive into detail, michaelboese.com and controlmouse.media. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Okay, see you next week.